Thank you very much to Mr. J.K. Dadu, and a big hand to him for those wonderful suggestions and for taking up our concerns. Ladies and gentlemen, please do put your hands together as I request our chief guest, Mr. Shaktikanta Das, Secretary, Department of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance, to address us. Ladies and gentlemen, our chief guest, Mr. Shaktikanta Das.
Dignitaries on and off the dais, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm good morning to all of you. I'm extremely happy to participate in the third annual Gold Summit of the Indian Bullion and Jewelers Association here in Mumbai. I have been interacting with the association over the last few months, last few weeks, when we were preparing ourselves for these new schemes, the gold bond scheme and the gold monetization scheme. And all the interaction meetings, we got excellent suggestions from the association, and I thank the association for inviting me to be here. This is an important association. This is an important sector in our economy. And the government and the association, the government and the stakeholders in this segment, in this gold and jewelry association, in this gold and jewelry sector, in this segment, we need to work together to understand the difficulties, the issues that are involved, and do whatever is best in the interest of public policy, whatever is best in the interest of the economy. Now, before I go into sharing a few thoughts, the few facts need to be placed on record. These are known to all of you, but I think to create a proper context, to place things in a proper perspective, it's essential to keep these facts in mind. Now, this sector of gems and jewelry is a very important sector in the Indian economy, and has been a very fast-growing sector in our economy in the last few years. There have been problems in the recent years, but nonetheless, it has been a fast-growing sector. This sector is highly export-oriented, labor-intensive, contributor to employment, contributor to the growth of GDP and the overall GDP numbers, and also it contributes to foreign exchange earnings when exports do take place. The share of this sector in countries' total exports in the past 5 years has been around 15% on an average, 15. The sector is expected to generate up to 35 billion of revenue from exports in the current year. As per available estimates, nearly 25 lakh people are employed in this particular sector by the gold industry, which is primarily in the small and medium segment, in the small and medium industry sectors. And in the next 5 years, it has been estimated that this sector is likely to create additional employment for about 10 to 11 lakh people, so which is a very, very positive sign and a sector which has a lot of potential. As has been mentioned earlier, this sector also, this sector also plays a very important role in satisfying the traditional, cultural, and sociological requirement, the liking we as Indians have for this sector, for gold. I think that in that sense, this sector has been playing a very important role. But at the same time, as all of you know, India has been a very large importer of gold. In the past, it has contributed to our economy in terms of jobs. In very recent years, it created certain problems with regard to current account deficit, the balance of payment problem. So therefore, certain decisions were taken by the government. And today, we have reached a stage where I think the association and the government, we are very creatively and constructively engaged in working together. Now, before I go into talking about the specific issues relating to gold and the gold monetization and the gold bond schemes, let me also mention that this segment needs to grow to create jobs. The highest priority for the government today is to revive growth and to take it to 8% and 8% plus. Current year, we are looking at a growth of about 7.5%. So in this background, it was very satisfying to note that the second quarter GDP growth has been estimated at 7.4%. So the outlook is very positive, and we are quite optimistic that this 7.4% should take us closer to achieving the current year growth target of 7.5%. A number of measures have been taken by the government to revive growth in our country. A series of reform measures have been taken in the last few months. In fact, if you look at the month of November, I will not be wrong to say that November has been a month of solid economic reforms, solid policy initiatives to revive growth and to take the economy forward. We started the month with the launching of the gold schemes, the gold monetization scheme, the gold bond scheme, and the gold coin scheme by the Honorable Prime Minister on 5th of November, when many of your association members and office bearers were present. Then just the day before Diwali, that's on 10th of November, the government announced what is perhaps the largest and the strongest liberalization in FDI policy since 1991. In the last 20 to 25 years, the kind of liberalization that was announced in FDI policy on 10th of November, one day before Diwali, is definitely a landmark announcement, and we do expect a lot of investment to come into the country. The government has very boldly looked at and liberalized sectors like defense, construction, and several other sectors. Uplinking of satellite channel, the government has been very bold and very positive and very constructive in taking these decisions. In real estate sector, for example, now you have stuck projects which are half complete. You are not able to complete, so the money of the banks is locked up. The money of the individual buyers of flats and apartments, their money is locked up. The developers' money is locked up, and the whole thing is a non-performing asset. It's a drag on the economy. Now for such projects, FDI is available. For completed projects, if the developer wants to move out, FDI is available. For new and greenfield projects, also FDI is available. Why I am mentioning this is that we need that additional inflow of resources into the country and add to the domestic capital in order to facilitate more investment. Talking again about November, we had yesterday the Reserve Bank of India and the Finance Ministry, we had been working very closely and proactively. We were discussing with each other on liberalization of the policy relating to the external commercial borrowings. And last evening, the Reserve Bank of India has announced the liberalization of the ECB policy by announcing a revised framework. I'm not going into the details of it. Yesterday, again, because of the very constructive engagement between the Finance Ministry and the SEBI, the Securities and Exchange Board of India, a number of reform measures were announced: listing of stock exchanges, exit option for dissenting shareholders, and on a day when climate change talks were taking place in Paris among all the world leaders through the mechanism of the COP21, the Conference of Parties 21 in Paris, where Honorable Prime Minister also has made a very strong intervention putting forth India's point of view. On a day like that, the SEBI also came out with a discussion paper on issuance of green bonds, which one would expect will go a long way to facilitate investment in climate change. So if you see, to revive growth, government has been taking a series of reforms, And I have listed about 4 or 5 major initiatives which were taken in the month of November, and today we are on 1st of December. I can assure you that process of taking bold policy decisions, process of taking decisions with regard to economic reforms are a 24/7 process. The government we will not wait for a major event like budget to delay certain decisions if the decisions can be taken today. This is the kind of commitment with which the government, the administration, and all its agencies, we are working together as a team, and I think we need to take this, take the process forward. So the priority of the government is on reviving growth, and the priority of the government is to create more jobs. So when we are talking of growth and when we are talking of creating more jobs, I think the Bullion and the Jewelers Association has a very important role to play, because you are the driver, you are a major driver of country's exports, you are major job creators. So we need to work together to see how more jobs can be created and how more exports can take place. Exports should not lead to massive import of gold. We need to meet the requirement of gold by this sector from the domestic segment, from the huge quantum of surplus gold that is available within the country. A mention was made about the gold bond scheme and the gold monetization scheme. The gold bond scheme has been an excellent, the initial response has been excellent, and I will not hesitate to say that the gold bond scheme, the first tranche which was opened on 5th November and kept open till 20th November, has been a success, and we are looking for greater success, and we are working very sincerely to ensure that the next tranche of gold bond scheme receives even a bigger response. 63,000 applicants contributing about 246 crores of rupees, equivalent to about 917 kilograms of gold in a first tranche for, as an initial response for a new and innovative scheme. I think it's very important. The number of applicants is very important. 63,000 applications spreading throughout the country. Coming to the gold monetization scheme, I would say that these are early days, and it will not be correct at all. It will be wrong to rush into any conclusion to pass a final verdict on the success or otherwise of the scheme. I think these are early days. This is a new scheme. The scheme is open-ended. It's not a scheme where it opens today and closes tomorrow or closes after 10 days. It's a continuing scheme. It's a new scheme. And the government is committed and determined to make a success out of it. It's not an easy scheme. Speakers before me have explained our attachment to gold. All of you know it better than anybody else, the attachment of all Indians, all of us, to gold. People look upon it as a safety mechanism. People look upon it as something which they would like to gift during the marriage of their children. People like to buy gold, keep it, and then use it in future for their children's education. It has got so many other applications, so many other uses, and there is a traditional cultural attachment which all of us in India we have with gold. It's not easy to expect somebody who has a gold jewelry to come and sell it. A mother would rather give the jewelry to the daughter-in-law or to the daughter. Doesn't matter, it goes into another locker. But she would rather give it to her than come and sell it. This is the traditional mindset. And we need to change that mindset. It's not something which can be achieved in 10 days or 15 days. During the during the launching of this scheme by the Honorable Prime Minister on 5th November, some of you were there, and I had made an observation. I wish to repeat that again. Now, in the words of one of the greatest economists of his times, John Maynard Keynes, he said as follows: the difficulty lies not in new ideas. The difficulty lies not in new ideas, but The difficulty lies in giving up old ones, in giving up old habits. So here we are looking at a kind of a cultural milieu, a kind of a mindset, and we need to address that mindset. There's nothing wrong in that mindset because it's a part of our culture. But we need to work closely, understand the psyche of the people, and have creative facilities, have workable facilities which will enthuse and motivate people who possess gold, which will motivate the bulk owners of gold like the various trusts and the charitable organizations to come forward and give their gold under the gold monetization scheme. So there are huge challenges. We are proactively engaged with your office bearers, with all of you. We are proactively discussing with the banks. Incidentally, immediately after this, I have a meeting with the bankers specifically to discuss these two schemes, the gold bond scheme and the gold monetization scheme, particularly the gold monetization scheme, and what are the kind of changes or what are the kind of modifications, what additional things we need to do to make a success out of this scheme. During my interaction with many of you, number of suggestions have come. Those suggestions are on the table and we are looking at those suggestions. There was a limitation in terms of number of testing and assaying centers. There were just handful and concentrated to the western part of India and maybe one or two in, a few in the northern parts. But we need to open up and have the facility of, the testing centers and the assaying centers throughout the country. So in the last meeting, we have decided that there are 13,000 certified jewelers with the BIS, and the BIS has now called for expression of interest from all these 13,000 jewelers spread over the country and get their willingness, whether they are wanting to act as testing centers for the gold monetization scheme. We want to involve the jewelers in the successful implementation of the scheme. Because the people have, somebody who has, in a small town or in a village or even in a big city, the people have greater trust on their family jeweler than on anybody else. So we need to involve a lot of jewelers throughout the country so that they are in a position to interact with their traditional clients and bring them onto the scheme. So number of suggestions have come. There are various issues which are internal between the banks, the testing centers and the melting centers. All those issues are being addressed. And I would request the members of the association to constantly engage with us. And as you have been attending the various meetings which we have been having with you and with the World Gold Council, our doors are always open. So I would suggest and appeal to you. Now you have seen the scheme has been under implementation for the last 20-25 days. So if you have suggestions, and I'm sure you have many suggestions, I would request you to please put them together in writing, give it to us, and then come and interact with us. We will be very happy to work with you to make a success out of this scheme. There are various other issues, difficulties which were pointed out in the initial presentation which was made by the President and the other office bearers of the association. I have noted the various issues which have been highlighted. I'm sure you will be presenting a written memorandum. We in government will look at it. I will share it with the concerned other ministries like the Department of Commerce and other departments which are connected with this issue. And I can assure you that the government will look at these issues and difficulties with an open mind. Because I think your objective and our objective are synergized, and these objectives of your association, your members, and the objectives of the government are, I think, converging at one particular point of time. You want more exports, you want to create more jobs, you want to increase your volumes, And we want all that because we are interested in growth and we are interested in more jobs. So before I conclude, I would like to just leave one idea with you. It is just an idea. It's not, let me make it very clear that I'm not making a policy announcement here. It is just an idea. We have not looked at this idea in the government, but this idea needs to be looked at in greater depth, greater analysis, because there are pluses and minuses. There are concerns around this idea. At the same time, there are many positive features of this idea. There used to be the Bombay Bullion Exchange. Today, we have reached a situation. You mentioned about gold bank and having specifically a dedicated gold bank. I'm not really, let me be frank, I'm not really too sure whether it will work, because having a dedicated bank for a specific sector or for a specific purpose has its inherent limitations. It looks good from the point of view of the customers, from the point of view of the clients, but it really doesn't look particularly good from the point of view of the bottom line of that particular organization. But these are only initial thoughts. I mean, I'm not again passing a final judgment, and I'm not the person to pass a final judgment on this issue. These matters will be examined and placed before the government. It's for the government to take a decision. What I want to share with you is that today, you see, what the gold monetization scheme is trying to achieve is to convert the idle gold into financial savings, to provide an instrumentality by which this idle gold becomes a financial savings and contributes to the investment climate, contributes to more investment in the country. What the gold monetization and the gold bond schemes are trying to achieve is to reduce the imports and ease the pressure on the balance of payments of the country, because both the schemes are aimed at utilizing, channelizing. The gold bond scheme channelizes the investment which would have otherwise gone into gold into bonds. The gold monetization scheme tries to unlock this idle gold which are kept in various lockers and various vaults. We have a huge demand for gold in the country to meet the ever-growing requirement of our people in the domestic market. And we need to channelize the domestic gold for that, and that is the principal objective of the gold monetization scheme. So, can we think of a gold exchange? Can we think of a gold exchange where there can be, trading in a platform, in a very transparent platform? Those who have surplus gold and who want to trade it can sell it to somebody who's in requirement of gold. There's a jeweler who needs some gold temporarily or for some time. So instead of going for imports, can he purchase it locally? There are issues, there are concerns, whether it will have an inflationary impact on the gold prices. But then again, as you know, gold prices are internationally determined. And I don't think a local trading or a local exchange platform will significantly alter the international prices. But that is one concern which needs to be addressed. Because also, if you allow forward trading, is it also going to fuel the prices? This is again another concern. But I think the time has come for all of us to look at the possibility of having a gold exchange, a trading platform, whereby the domestic requirement of gold can be met by domestic suppliers of gold, and this exchange will provide the required platform for that. This is one idea which I would like to leave with all of you, which I will leave with your office bearers. I request to deliberate on it. If you think the idea doesn't make any sense, please junk it, throw it. But if you think that the idea has got any value, please apply your mind, because you know and you understand this sector far better than anyone else. So I would urge the association and all of you to look at this suggestion, consider it, and if you think it makes sense, Please give us your suggestions. Please give us a concept paper so that this can be taken up for further examination in government. I would personally feel that we need to give a very serious thought to this idea. And finally, to conclude, I would like to say that the association has been playing a very important role. I am very thankful to all of you for having invited me here and for having given such a patient hearing. And I wish your deliberations, your day-long deliberations, a great success. And I assure you that if you and I work together, the sector as a whole will be able to achieve its growth, achieve higher exports, and achieve its objectives for which the association has been formed and for which all of you are here. So thank you once again for being so patient. Thank you.